All right, guys, just gonna touch base real quick. I've had a lot of questions regarding the compensator and a couple other questions regarding some of the other stuff. Why I do what I'm kind of doing. I'm basically just trying to document basically my experience as far as building something and coming across some of the issues that you basically come across and nobody really talks about. You see a lot of builds online that people do, but nobody really gives you basically updates on how the build's coming along, what kind of mileage you get, any issues maintenance wise, noises, how's it holding up, mileage, stuff like that. That I wish a lot of other people that posted videos on engine builds would basically kind of touch base on, do follow-up videos on how their experience is as far as certain builds that they did. So that's kind of why I kind of try to document my personal experience on this particular build that I did, on how it holds up, some of the things that I came across, so that somebody that possibly might be doing a build similar to this might avoid some of the things that maybe I did or didn't do. So if you have questions regarding the build, go ahead and leave me a comment. If I have the answer, I'll reply with what I think might be right in my opinion. One of the questions I get quite a bit is regarding the compensator. So I guess some compensators, depending on the tensioner that you have in it, can create a lot of noise. I've kind of heard, I haven't had the personal experience myself, but I've kind of heard that with the Harley tensioner, since it kind of moves up and down quite a bit, it is noisy. And possibly if you put too much tension on it, you can kind of bind things and you can get a lot of noise from the basket and your clutch side and stuff like that. I personally haven't had that issue. The only noise that I kind of get is like a whine, kind of like a gear drive, only like in first gear. And then after that, it kind of goes away and I don't hear anything. Some people say they do the solid, and then depending on the tensioner that they have, I think the tensioner makes a lot of noise. I haven't personally tried that, so you might want to look into maybe a different type of tensioner to maybe reduce some of the noise. I really don't know. And I've had a lot of questions regarding, does this bike have a solid or welded crank, stock crank? What do you have? This is basically a stock crank, and there's pros and cons to running the solid from what I kind of have heard. I haven't had those issues, but some people say, you run a stock crank, you run a higher risk of, basically taking out a true, from, going to a solid compared to a compensating, like a Screaming Eagle comp or stuff like that, where it kind of fluctuates, it goes back and forth, and it gives that leeway between the engine basically cycling in between. So I don't know. I've heard good things, I've heard bad things. I personally haven't had any issues as far as that, but I might be the exception. I don't know. I've seen some really good stuff that George Bryce has kind of touched base on, and I kind of see what he says, like as far as you want a compensator, like a Screaming Eagle type, to basically be the fuse in between your crank and your transmission. So I could kind of see that, So especially with when you start to really crank up the power and you really start to ride the bike really aggressive, I could kind of see that you want that leeway there. I've ridden this bike pretty hard, from when I basically did the build. I really haven't had any major issues. I did have a couple problems with the oil pump and stuff like that. And some of the previous videos I had, so that I have posted some of the issues that I kind of came across. But other than that, the bike's been basically pretty much solid. this year or last year, I wasn't able to really put a lot of miles on the bike. I got about 46,000 right now. So this is my daily. I've been commuting quite a bit on it right now. The weather's starting to warm up a little bit here in the area that I happen to live in. So if you have any questions regarding the build, whatnot, feel free to ask me. I'm in the process right now to try to get all the funds for, I'm trying to do the T124 SNS, the HC, which comes with the 640 cams. I'm trying to gather all the funds for that. We're pretty close to getting that started. So my plans are basically to do the 124 and then basically switch over to the Dark Horse solid comp. I've heard good things and I've kind of heard bad things. I've heard it's pretty noisy, but I really haven't had the chance to personally hear somebody's bike with it. So we're thinking about doing the 32, actually the 34 on this one, and then I haven't decided 100% if I'm going to do chain or if I'm going to leave the belt. I really don't know yet. I'm kind of, since we're going to have everything apart, it's easier to do the conversion, but I haven't really decided yet. It's all basically money. We already started with the pipe. This is the Borzilla. So I bought the pipe for that build, and I want to get it over to Dean over at RG Engineering for him to do the tune. And we're thinking about doing the flex fuel, the E85, and basically see how that turns out. So, all right, guys, I'll talk to you guys later.